you want to pack it too?
No,
No.
I'm making sure that this is working because I'm going to lunch.
Oh, awesome. Okay, we'll be speedy then.
There's pizza.
Can you hear
All
us?
sorts of pizza.
Thank you.
Has started,
Lots of pizza.
so we're on and live.
Awesome. Eric, just to double check, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you just fine, thank you.
Wonderful. All right. Let's do it. Okay. I don't sit still well. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Thanks for hanging in there. My name is Ashley. I am the Associate Director of the Local Government Center, which is a unit inside of MSU Extension. We do training, technical assistance, and research for primarily local governments, although we are statutorily defined and our mission can include any public entities and hanging out with you fine folks, right? We do a lot of board trainings, a lot of roles and responsibilities trainings, open meeting trainings across the state. I think I counted this in this 9-day window I'm in, I have 7 training events. So that's pretty typical. I'll be in Polson on Thursday. I was in Missoula yesterday. That's what we do, right? So we like to be out in the communities, working with the people who do the work to support the citizens across the state. We're very passionate about what we do. It's our 40th year. And I am at heart a nerd about all things governance. So any and every question you can come up with today, please throw it at me. If we don't know the answer, I'm sure we can logic our way through something that might make sense. So that's who I am. My intention is to spend the next couple hours sharing with you information about open meeting laws and board governance and engagement with citizens. But before I jump in, I want to know, what is it that would be helpful for you? Because this is your time. I am basically a walking encyclopedia of all things governance in Montana. So tell me what you want to know and we'll spend time on it.
Ashley?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, real quick. I just want to make sure that the board members understand we have a hard stop at 4 p.m. today. I know the meeting said 5 o'clock, but we have a hard stop at 4.
Is anybody super upset if we get done early?
No.
Okay.
No, it's fine.
I
These are
appreciate that.
rules. We're fine.
Rules, actually, that was my fault because my daycare closes at 4:30 and it's $3 a minute for every minute that you're late.
Ooh,
So
Really?
yeah.
Whoa.
So, and she has dance at 5:15, so we got to be on top of it. Thank you, Eric, for that. I appreciate it. So we'll go until 4 if we have enough content and interaction to last that long. If we're done early and you're good, then we can be done early. So whatever you want, no rules.
No rules.
No rules. So I'd love to know what you would like to get out of this afternoon. But before I get to that, could you tell me a little bit about how you see your work? What is your duty as a body with respect to the state and the citizens? What do you do and who do you serve?
Well, we're basically an oversight committee that's kind of looking at what's happening with the parks, and then we review spending for projects over $50,000.
Okay.
And then we approve that spending or not. But for the most part, whenever we have a meeting, the Fish and Game brings us a real nice packet of information, and it's pretty easy to, look through it and approve it. And if it's, if we're not getting the good information, it starts with what what they hand off to the board. The board doesn't come up with projects.
Okay.
And the public seems to think that we do.
Yeah.
They come to you and say, well, we want to do this and this at Bannock. We want to build this building to put the stagecoach in. I said, that's not anything that, we can do.
Okay.
You need to start it with the Fish and Game and start it with John, the park manager.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Okay.
But the misconception on what this board does.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's super helpful. Yeah.
There's one thing, and I'm jumping in, I'm sorry,
please.
Jody, but there's one thing I really like about the packet of information that we are given to, and there's always a cause and effects. If we do this, this is how it could affect, or this is how it could.
Sure.
I like that.
Yeah. It seems like we used to get more information. In the last couple of years, we didn't get as much information when we were coming to a meeting.
It's hard to do a vote on something when you don't really know how we don't really know. We're over here. We're not working on the ground in the situation, how it's going to affect everything
Sure.
and what the adverse effects might be. So
Yeah.
it was nice to see all of that too.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the last meeting where they got up, I don't remember the gentleman, but he got up, Ryan, and give us a presentation about each one of the spending projects and what it entailed.
Yeah.
Was excellent, was the best informational thing that we'd ever got at
Cool.
a meeting. That was wonderful.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Thank you. What do you got?
Well, I think if you pull up the actual, the approval, what would you call it? The actual, code that.
Oh, your
legal-
statute, yeah.
There you go. The
Yeah.
statute that created the Parks Board. It's kind of a quasi judicial type deal. So we have certain things that actually we vote on, which is the spending, that Russ talked about.
Okay.
And then also rulemaking authority that has to be approved by the park. But other things that's listed, I believe in that is the park also, we're supposed to know and live in the
Mhm.
region that we represent.
Okay.
Or the
Yep.
district, I should say.
Yep.
And when we can, as we can, are capable of, get to know the constituents, which is the recreating public.
Yep.
And be a go-between between the public and the agency.
Okay.
We're supposed to represent the recreational interests and have a voice for those people.
Okay. Okay.
So, and there's no teeth to that.
Sure.
We can't necessarily, like Russ, that make
Yeah.
sure that we're heard or our ideas are heard, but
Yeah.
it's tough. FWP can't do everything. I told you, we were just talking, we got, 2 Parks Board folks or however many for a huge region and
Yeah.
they're, sometimes so. And also when we get to know some of what's going on the field and some of the people that are just managing the park and
Yeah.
stuff, get to know that we can bring those concerns to the agency.
Sure. Okay.
Hopefully.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great. Is it director?
Administrator.
Administrator.
Yeah.
Administrator Lemon, do you have anything to add to that?
I would just add, we had our first in-person meeting in June in quite some time. And from my perspective, it was an excellent meeting. As Russ mentioned, we had a great presentation on the capital projects that these folks were taking a look at. And then we actually went and did a site visit at our new state park, Judith Landing, the next day. I think the goal of the chair is they've got 4 meetings typically a year.
Okay.
And often they're virtual, but I think the chair's goal is to make one of them in person every year.
I like that. Yeah. Helps you kind of ground and connect to each other. Yeah. Okay. Okay, great.
When we first came on the board, we met in person a lot more.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I thought it was very beneficial to get to know
Oh, for sure.
the other people.
Yeah.
The Zoom, it was difficult. And especially if you're running the meeting and you're looking on that screen for one of the board members to raise a hand or,
Yep.
and then there was a thing, you hit that and you'd raise your hand, but
Yeah.
still, that was hard to see because they had.
That's
all-
why I never wanted to be chair. Liz, got it.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, and their chair does an excellent
Okay.
job running the meeting, but that's what I'm interested in, just from your expertise and perspective,
Sure.
how do you run a meeting in the best way?
Yep.
And also as a staff member that's supporting the board, what should I be looking out for so that I can best support them?
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I can definitely do that. And Eric, do we have anybody online live with us right now, or are we just recording?
Yeah, Mr. Morancic is online.
Oh,
Oh,
good.
wonderful. Do we have anything to add? I don't know if you have audio capability, but would love to hear your thoughts on what you'd like to get out of today and maybe what you see your role as.
Are you there, John? If you're there, John, you're still muted. We can't hear you. Hopefully you're there and talking, but can't hear. There we go.
Can you hear me? Hello. Hello, hello, hello.
Oh, there you are.
Hey,
There, we can hear you. A little quiet though.
You've got me?
Gotcha.
All right. No, that sounds, I think everybody's covered it really well. Yeah.
Are there any specific questions that you have that you'd like us to touch on?
Not right now. No, no.
No. Okay. All right. And Eric, does he have the link to the virtual packet?
No, is it the same packet that we had this morning?
Yes, sir.
I'll make sure I send it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So I tend to not do things with PowerPoint because I do not like death by PowerPoint. I train for a living and I don't want to look at the same slides all the time. The beauty of board trainings is that every one of them that I do is a little bit different because it's dependent on what you all want to learn, right? So I have some content here and we'll definitely go through it, but please ask questions and send us down rabbit holes and do all of the things because that's what makes it fun and interesting. So,
I have a question.
yes.
Is there, I'm looking at it the other way from the
Yeah.
outside looking in, is there people look at our meetings and say, I think you could tighten up this, you could do this.
Ooh.
Come on, I mean, you're asking us how we can make our
Yes.
meetings better. We haven't been doing this our whole lives, but there's people here that have.
Yes.
So you tell us what's wrong with our meeting.
Okay, well, I come to you very ignorant of your current operations because I haven't had the privilege of seeing your meetings, but we can talk about how they're structured and I can give you pointers and you can take or leave it, whatever you want, because I have no authority, only influence, and we'll see how far my influence goes and stuff. But I love that. Yes, I'm happy to give you ideas, best practices. I talk to hundreds of boards and councils a year. I can tell you what's common across the state and what's not. You can decide what to do with that information. But I will start us off with things that are not optional. At the top of your packet on page 1, well, and back up. At the local government center, we only highlight things that we think are really important. So the entire packet is highlighted. Yeah.
yeah.
And I will say this packet is, what is it? 28 pages, 28 pages. It's down from, there used to be 2 pieces and it was about 55. So I high graded a lot. We'll spend a good chunk of time on this first page. If we can understand the intent and the purpose of this first page, everything else is just the details about how you do it. Okay. So we start off with our Constitution. Everything starts and is grounded in the Constitution. Now we have a federal constitution and we have a state constitution. Inside of your federal constitution, you have constitutional rights, right? The right to free speech and assembly, the right to bear arms, and people get lost after those 2. And then on the state side, you have a similar Bill of Rights, but they are in some cases different, and it's a unique Bill of Rights that is only, its jurisdiction is within the boundaries of Montana. So we as Montana citizens get to have both of those. The reason that that's important is because rights number 8, 9, and 10 from our Montana Constitution are really important to the work that you do as a governing body, as a public agent or a public body, right? Number 8, you'll see at the top there, the right to participate. The public has the right to expect governmental agencies such as y'all to afford such reasonable opportunity for citizen participation in the operation of the agencies prior to final action as may be provided by law. And that is some nuancy legalese, but what it's saying is in Montana, we have a constitutional right as citizens, as the public, as people who don't live in Montana, but are interested in things going on in Montana, to be involved and be able to have public comment and say before any final action is taken, right? And what that means is, ooh, I get to be a panelist. Thank you, sir. Means I can share screens if I need to. What that means then for us is you as a citizen have been able to exercise your rights whenever it is most convenient for you your entire life, right? When you sit on the other side of the table, when you are a public official, you are now responsible for protecting the rights of every single person who is not on that same side of the table with you, whether they live in the state or not, because it says the public has the right. It doesn't say the citizens have the right. Okay, so I have the same standing as somebody from Reno, Nevada. It's just how it's written. This comes to us, our Constitution as we know it now. It is our second adopted Constitution, our third real try at a Constitution as a state. We tried once in the 1870s. We wanted to be part of the Union. We submitted our draft. They said, that is not a good draft. You need to try again. So we tried again, and between when we submitted the first one and when we submitted the second one in the late 1880s, Pennsylvania and Wyoming had recently been admitted to the Union. We said, well, their model worked. Let's just copy and paste that. That should work for us, right? They are heavy railroad states. They had a single industry that was favored in their constitution as it was adopted by the Union. So we copy and pasted and we just changed the industry to which industry?
Mining.
Mining. Oh,
The Copper Kings had constitutional support for having an outsized voice in our state. And that's how it was when we were admitted into the Union, right? And so for 80 years or so, we ran with that constitution that basically minimized the right of everyday citizens to participate and have a real say in the things that affect and impact our lives. So in 1972, when we sent everybody to, or 70, when we sent everybody to the Capitol, or Capitol?
Yep.
Yeah. For the Constitutional Convention, 100 delegates across the state came together and we said, you know what, we're going to try again because the Constitution that we're operating under is not really serving the needs of most of the people in the state. So we came in, had another Control-Alt-Delete, we tried it, and in the forefront of their minds was this imbalance of power to the structures and the people who had the means at the expense of the everyday citizen. From that kind of mentality comes some things that in our state constitution are somewhat to very unique. Our constitution as a state is studied by other states and law schools across the country because there's some really cool things in there, including the right to participate, which we just learned about, the right to know. So every citizen, every member of the public has a right to examine public documents and to observe deliberations. You don't get to do the back rooms and in the bars and Butte anymore to make decisions. You're going to do it in view of the public, right? That's part of that reaction to what was going on. And then the individual right to privacy. So we have a constitutional right in Montana to an individual right to privacy, and we believe that it is essential to the well-being of a free society. You shall not infringe on that right without the showing of a compelling state interest. What that means is if there is a time when a public body needs to deal with something that would include personal individual information, you as an individual have the right to privacy. You'll see this show up with school boards and coaches or principals, right? Typically on this kind of, do they have any, should they run into any of that?
we've run into some. We have at some points where I believe when we've said, no, let's not go all the way out so we can discuss it better here within, haven't we? Where we didn't have to have public, didn't put a comment on this portion.
Well, there were times that we offered public comments
Mhm.
and there were times where there wasn't any public comment needed.
Okay.
Like this meeting today,
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
public can look at it, but
Yep.
they're not
They can
gonna
look at it.
comment. on
Correct.
it.
And let's
And-
talk about, remind me when we get to 23202, 2-3-202, we'll talk about why there's no public comment. I'll give you the legal rationale for why there's no public comment today.
Ashley,
So, yeah,
I'm sorry, one of the things that they'll come across more often than not is arm rule adoptions. And
oh, right, yes, thank you.
so on the
Tell
final,
us more, sir.
yeah, on the final adoption piece, we don't offer another public comment opportunity because MAPPA has already covered that in the official record. So that's more likely what they're going to come across if they do have a situation where we're having a meeting, but not offering a comment on that topic.
Okay,
Yeah.
yep. And you will have legal counsel advising you on that, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
100%. Yes.
You will not have to navigate that by yourself.
Good.
And most everything we did, if we took any action on it and there was a motion, we gave the public an opportunity to
Right.
speak. And then if they were in person or Zoom, and then they would let us know, and then we'd give them their opportunity. Then we'd come back and we would debate it again,
Yep.
and then we would decide our final product. But, you know, I'm not sure that we were doing it the right order, but
Yeah.
I think we were.
I think that sounds fantastic. And we'll talk about that here in just a bit about the details of it, but that's exactly what I recommend. I would rather you talk about it after the public has maybe before, but also after they have an opportunity.
We did both.
So yes, so that they hear you incorporate what they have to say in your discussion.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're on it. Okay. So, right to know, right to privacy, so, and the right to participation. Those are the three constitutional rights that everything else that we're gonna talk about are grounded in. We have to have those as a base, right? That is the supreme law of the land in the state of Montana. Now, you have, does anybody else have one of these?
No.
No, they're
Not
adopted
anymore.
constitution. I love it. I take it with me everywhere. This includes the state of Montana Constitution, the United States Constitution, and all of the amendments. So, if something goes to the US Supreme Court, is it about something in the Montana Constitution?
I would think it'd be our state Supreme Court.
It is. It's our state Supreme Court. So law of the land, supreme law of the land, right? US Constitution, those constitutional questions go to the US Supreme Court. State Constitution, we don't let the US Supreme Court play in our sandbox unless there's a question of whether the state constitution conflicts with the federal constitution. That's the only time that the federal Supreme Court would have questions, find on questions about our state constitution. That's important. So I'm going to tell you a story in a little bit about the Montana Supreme Court and their findings, and that's it. You don't get to appeal after that. Okay, so much fun. There are two things that I love to talk about. One of them makes me really angry, and that is 15-10-420 and what it's done to local government budgets over the last 20 years. We will not spend time on that today because that's not what you're here for. But the other one is the stories that happen in local government that bring this to life. That's not just, I don't want to read you statute. You could have done that at home, right? I'm going to tell you where this has happened around the state, how it's been applied, and how if you mess up bad enough, you will be the people that I'm talking about the next time that I train somewhere else. Right, so I don't want you to be the stories that I tell. That's my goal.
Oh,
Okay.
all right.
All right. Well, because really, at the end of the day, here's the deal. People come to this work. Usually you have lots of other things happen in your life. This is something that you volunteered to be a part of. You're willing to provide this service for the people of the state. I don't want to see people who are willing to serve their neighbors and their communities get sideways with the law because we just didn't know any better. That's what drives us to do what we do. We want to support you so you can be successful in what you do. Okay. All right, so we're tracking on the constitutional rights, all three of those. Okay, that next chunk down that's all highlighted, 23103. This, in my opinion, is maybe the most important statute for you to understand in depth, because if you understand this one and its intent, everything else is just details. Okay. This is the bridge between Constitution and what does it look like in practice. All right, so let's take a look at it. We'll read the first two sentences and then I'll give you some good war stories. So each agency, that includes y'all, shall develop procedures for permitting and encouraging the public to participate in agency decisions that are of significant interest to the public. Procedures must ensure adequate notice and assist public participation before a final agency action is taken that is, again, of significant interest to the public. This is a great example of how unclear state statute can be. What is significant interest to the public? How do you know what is and is not? Okay, what is adequate notice? How far ahead of a meeting do you have to post your agenda?
That's, nobody's real clear. Sometimes it's
That's an Eric question.
Ah, he can't
Yeah.
cheat. He's already heard this. Okay, I can give you the answer though.
Okay.
The answer is there is no statute that defines it. This 23103 was as much information as we had. And for a long time, the people who it impacted in the state thought about it like a lot, to the point where we had to have AG Mazurek issue an opinion on it. And he said, here's the deal. Based on all of his legal study, his review of the statute and everything that kind of contextualizes it, he said adequate notice is at least 48 hours prior to the meeting. And that amount of time should increase with the importance of the topic being considered. So that you will not find that in statute anywhere. It's an AG opinion. But the deal is AG opinions and case law stand with equal weight to law until the legislature decides to write a new law to override it.
Oh, okay.
So if the AG says that's what it is, that's what it is, until the legislature tells us something different. Okay. And then in that same opinion, they said, well, what is significant public interest? How do we know where the line is for that? Because we know if you're talking about land use, and zoning, that kind of thing, for sure, public interest. Money, a significant public interest. Messing with privileges and rights, things that people can and can't do, public interest. But how low does the bar go? And he said, significant public interest is anything more than a ministerial act, which was super unhelpful language.
I was just gonna say that. didn't
I
help
don't
me.
get it.
What it means is if
Go to church and pray. I mean, that's what came to
That's
my
what I
mind, okay?
it means anything that does not require any kind of policy or legislative discretion on your part. For example, let's say you all meet let's say you meet monthly and you meet every second Tuesday of the month at 6 o'clock. And this next month, it's going to be a holiday. So you could text each other in a whole group, and say, hey, next month is a holiday. Should we meet on Wednesday at 6 instead? You could have that whole conversation outside of the view of the public and not violate open meeting laws, because there's nothing policy related. It's strictly an administrative function to set a time to meet. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Anything more than that could be considered significant public interest. And who gets to decide? Public. Usually through a court case, and the judges really like to lean in favor of the public. So anything more than an administrative function, it probably needs to be on an agenda. Okay.
Ashley, back to the adequate notice.
Yeah.
So it's really up to each agency to decide and at least make that 48 hours. So I was going to ask Eric,
Sure. Yeah.
how far in advance do we typically post our agendas? Maybe he's not there
Yeah,
anymore.
I'm gonna say that we were seeing things at least a week, if not a couple weeks ahead.
Yeah.
Which with the cadence of your meeting, that would make sense. If you were meeting once or twice a month, it would be a different story.
Yeah.
But if you're meeting once a quarter, then a couple weeks would probably be consistent.
I'm
Yeah, I
sorry,
think that's-
did I miss something? I would had to step away.
you
Yeah,
did.
Eric, I was wondering, how far in advance are you posting agendas?
So typically the agenda, it's posted just after I open registration for Zoom public comment, which is usually 2 weeks prior to the meeting.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So you are well within the 48-hour minimum. And we talked this morning a little bit, Eric and I were talking about there's so much space in statute to decide how you want to do this. Like, it's not defined. It doesn't say you have to do it 2 weeks ahead. It doesn't say any of that. You can. What I would consider doing is whatever your standard practice is, write it down and make it a policy or procedure. Because we like to say in our office that personality should not govern, policy should govern. So if you're going to do something, do it consistent the same way every time. Because consistency and transparency to the point of boredom is what builds trust with the public. Anytime you deviate from a standard practice, whether it's written down or not, if it's what you normally do and you deviate, some member of the public is going to assume it's because you're doing something shady, even when you're not. So try the best you can to be as consistent as possible.
When I was the chair, I wanted that agenda as much in advance as possible, because I had to study
sure.
and kind of prep for the meeting
Yeah.
and get it figured out how I was gonna conduct that meeting.
Who within our group would write that up?
That's a good question. Who does it now?
So
Yeah,
yeah,
Eric
it's
does.
coming from
Eric.
POR division staff, and then
Yeah.
it goes to Eric.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was very helpful when we got it. There were a couple times that we added some things and it was spending items.
Mhm.
Do you remember when they added the spending for the train station in Miles City?
Mhm.
And that was just, we only had a few days to, really didn't have time to look into. We had a
Yeah.
presentation, but
Yeah.
but it was a very short timeframe.
Yeah.
Just
yeah.
one thing that comes to mind.
Sure. And as long as you're outside of that 48 hours, you legally can add things. Once you dip inside of 48 hours, you can't add anything more to the agenda.
I think they just changed the whole, I'm sure we were more than 48, but they
Yeah.
changed that packet of where there was gonna be quite a bit more spending. Were 2 or 3 other things
Okay.
that were on that. and we added it, but it was just a few days
Sure.
in advance, but I'm sure more than 48.
Yeah, and it makes it hard to know what's in there when you're that compressed.
I think sometimes we might get information, it doesn't always happen that we get the same, you're talking about the public, we don't always get the information exactly the same time as the public.
Sure,
does.
sure, yes,
So.
Yep.
With us, we might like a little more time to study it, but as
Yeah.
far as then it gets refined and then as a package to the public for them to
Yep.
digest.
yep, exactly, yeah. Yeah, and I think that everything I've seen today, everything's operating exactly as it should with lots of buffer time, which is
Good.
fantastic. Then I thought, so on that note, if you look down in that green section, that was what was included not 2025, in the 2023 legislative session. There used to be some language that you had to post every meeting notice, basically every meeting notice either in the newspaper or in 3 places around town if your town qualified for being small enough. And they said that's not really realistic anymore with the world that we live in. So the change was made that the minimum to post adequately for a meeting is 48 hours ahead of time, and it needs to at least be on the agency's website. So that's the bare minimum. Above and beyond is great. And if you do consistently go above and beyond, let's say you cross post on a different agency's website, or you post in a local newspaper in each region or whatever it is, you can do that. Just make sure that you have it written down so you're doing it consistently. Because if people don't know where to look for the information, then you're wasting effort and resources putting the information there if they don't know where to find it. Good? Okay. And then a hearing is different than a meeting. Do you all deal with hearings much? No,
We did.
okay,
We had one where there was a citation issued by a park staff for someone that parked in a wrong spot at one of the lakes up in the Flathead.
okay,
And then it went to the director,
yep,
and it ended up coming back to the board. And we just really didn't know the right way to go about it, but trying to think of the board member that was on from Great Falls. That moved
Mary
to-
Mo.
Yeah.
Mary. She helped us kind of navigate that a little bit,
Okay.
but we did have a hearing and we end up supporting what
what happened?
what they had done. And it wasn't us to decide what, be judge and jury on
Sure,
that.
Exactly,
That's the way we felt. Mary helped us get there.
Yeah.
So that's the neat thing about the board is
Yeah.
you have, everybody can pitch in
Yeah.
and get you to a point to
have your
be on
strengths.
the right page.
Yeah,
So that, I
Okay.
think that was a hearing.
okay, so that sounds like you were operating in quasi judicial function, is that right?
Yeah.
Probably.
I don't think it was a requirement that we did. That's like, not sure how to handle this. Let's
Yeah.
go to the.
Yeah,
parks
that
board.
was how.
Yeah,
it-
we did.
That's how
We
it
did.
was
We don't-
marked.
What?
Okay.
Mary Mo said, I hope that we don't turn out to be taking all of these little
Yes.
Yeah.
possible ticket and warning things that happen at
Yeah.
boat
Didn't need
ramps
that.
and
Yeah.
coming to us.
Be the review
Yeah.
board, yeah,
Yeah.
that would be
Yeah.
a lot,
Yeah, no, Mary helped us. I don't know that we would have got there.
sure, okay,
She had spent some time on the board prior. We were
Yeah.
some new members.
Yeah. we were-
Okay. Well, if you do end up in a situation where you are operating in a quasi judicial function, that is when you are doing a finding of fact based on an existing policy. So we like to think about it as legislative and QJ or quasi judicial. When you're in legislative function, you are establishing and making decisions on policy. And when you're in QJ, you are doing a finding of fact based on the existing policy. The example that I like to use that's easy for people to understand is Board of Adjustments. Like, so you have a planning board that will, and sometimes they're the same, but it's easier if they're not, so we're gonna pretend they're not. The planning board will set the zoning regulations for, say, a city. And they're gonna say you can have light residential here and medium density residential here. And then this applicant comes in and says, I own property just on this side of the line for light residential, but I want to do a duplex. It doesn't meet the exact zoning requirements, so can I do variance? That would go to the Board of Adjustments. The Board of Adjustments would look at what are the requirements to approve a variance, and does this applicant meet those requirements or not? That is the only question they're asking. Do they meet it or not? It's not, do we like it? Does it fit with the character of how we think things should run? It's a finding of fact. If you're in that position, you typically are doing it inside of a hearing, and a hearing has a higher standard for notice and for interaction with outside parties. So if you're in QJ function, you are acting basically as a judge, as a body. So you are not allowed to talk to anyone outside of that hearing about that content unless it's been properly noticed and everybody knows. Because it would be like, if you're the judge, it would be like the defense attorney comes into chambers and has a little chat with you, but the prosecutor is not allowed in,
Right.
right? So you got to be careful with that. But that's only if you're acting in QJ function. And I say that to be very clear that when you're acting like you normally are in legislative function, please talk to people. Please see what's going on out there. We had a situation, I think it was last year, somebody called me, and my director, Dan, and I both do this work around the state. They called me, they're like, hey, Dan Clark was at our town last night and told us that the council can't talk to the public. Like, that's not what Dan Clark said. They said, yes, it is. And I was like, well, was he talking about QJ boards? Like, I don't know. Okay,
Yeah.
your job is to talk to the public in all cases, except when you're in quasi judicial function. So I don't want to scare you or make you think that you shouldn't be talking to them.
So when that situation came up where we had to review that, we didn't have any direction. We didn't really know where to go
Sure.
with it. And when we were done, I felt like we came up with the right decision.
Yeah.
But I wondered if there should be a board policy, if that should happen again at some point, just
Sure.
so the board and the chair
No.
has
Mhm.
some
The-
direction.
The statement that you just made, just simple like that, would be something
Mhm.
nice for us to have in our quiver, than try to
Sure.
remember this.
That-
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
trying to.
What's our appropriate discussions we have outside of the meeting?
Yeah, and we can definitely do that. Would be happy to work with Eric and his team to share some resources. I think what would be helpful is to have an opinion from legal counsel about whether you should be engaging in that or not. And if so, how. Because if the answer is no, you
Then
don't
we
want
don't
to
have
put
to
yourself
worry
out
about it.
there, right? Because
Right.
then you don't have to deal with any of it. And then you're not engaging in something that you don't have the statutory authority to do. And I don't
Right.
ever want to see you in that position.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Well, and it sounds like, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, that now we have good legal counsel, like
Mhm.
we have attorneys
legal.
at all of your meetings now. And maybe that wasn't the case historically.
And that has been, the attorney has been called on a lot of the
Oh, yeah.
meetings to
Is that-
clarify.
and,
That's a good point. We would have that right in our back
Yep.
pocket
Mhm.
most of the time.
That is
Yeah.
excellent.
And from what I've seen so far, your attorneys here are exceptional. So I think that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't want you to get too bogged down on things that are scary or unclear. Because I got lots of other things to make you confused about. It's fine.
Huh, cool.
Uh-huh. Okay, so tell me this. Tell me about generally, how is your meeting structured, your agenda? So let's say this is your agenda. You do some kind of opening ceremonies, I would assume. You roll call, call the meeting to order.
Pledge of
Pledge allegiance.
Okay, that all fits into here.
Russ gives the invocation.
Okay,
Then
Oh,
we,
that's a joke.
I was gonna say, we need to have a chat. Hold on, because that does happen in small towns across the state, and I'm like, oh, guys, we gotta talk. In fact, not just small towns. Butte America does it every time they have a meeting.
Do they?
And I
America would.
It would, yeah. And I keep trying to convince them, one of the commissioners who is a practicing Catholic, to talk about why maybe that is not the best practice, and they have yet to take me up on it, so.
So next would be review of last meeting's
Okay.
minutes.
Last meeting minutes, okay?
And those were most always sent out, so we had time before a meeting to look
Sure.
at them. And then we didn't have to go through them,
So you can
but we
waive
could
it.
just, we could vote to approve them. Somebody would make a motion, somebody'd second, we'd vote to approve.
Awesome, okay, love it.
And then the next would be
Board-
board,
Member reports.
yeah, board member reports.
And we give scintillating reviews on what's going on in
Doesn't-
Chicago.
Doesn't
Fantastic.
require approval of the
Yeah.
of the
there-
board to accept.
Yeah, and there was no public comment
Right.
on any of these
Okay.
things. And then we would have a report from the director.
Okay,
then we would go to action items.
Okay,
Did I miss?
Well,
them?
and one, you didn't miss anything. One thing that used to be on the agenda, I think maybe after last minute's meetings when we first started, was the board used to, this would probably be a decision that the administration makes, it that we used to approve board expenditures.
oh, sure, yeah, so like
And
claims,
we don't anymore.
okay,
I don't know if
I
that's,
don't know that anybody's ever sent anything in.
initially there was, because we were approving
Okay,
funds. It was, I think if there was, maybe it's just an effort to be transparent.
So I can weigh in on that a little bit,
oh,
Jody.
yes, thank you.
That practice would be in place had there been expenses incurred. So the reason that you didn't see them was because for the
Okay.
first 2 years that I was here, the meetings were via Zoom and we weren't doing expenditures. So now that we're doing in-person meetings, trainings like this, we're doing honorariums now for you for attending meetings just like this. You will see expenses coming up for the Parks Board here at the meetings that follow. So that's the simple explanation for why you haven't seen them for a while.
okay, good catch. Yeah.
You all are efficient with taxpayer dollars, well done.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so director's report and then action items after
Yeah,
that,
director.
okay. And how do you set up your action items?
There would be a presentation from the parks,
Staff
Okay.
member.
the staff member. And then we would have a discussion with the Parks Board.
Okay,
And then I think we end up with a motion from the Parks Board. Then
Okay.
we would open it up to public comment.
okay,
And then we would have more discussion from the Parks Board.
okay,
And then we would,
If we were ready, call for. a
yeah,
vote.
or yeah, we'd call for a vote and final action,
beautiful.
I think.
That is exactly how I want it to go.
Okay,
Okay, and then what do you do after your action items?
Not on, that's exactly how it goes. So well done, sir.
Woohoo,
So after staff presentation on your action items, staff presentation, discussion, the general discussion, that form would be questions from the board to the presenter.
perfect.
yes.
Ugh. Just bottle this and take
And
it with me.
Now, one question I have for you is that I've talked with a couple board members about, is like when you get to the point where, let's say you would go the presentation and then questions from the board about the presentation. And then once there's a motion, now you have public comment and then the board discussion. So what is it not appropriate for the board to have discussions amongst themselves in our meeting what our opinion of the proposal is prior to hearing public comment?
I'm not opposed to it. I think in this board discussion with the Q&A, you can share some of the evaluation that you're doing about the merits of the topic, as long as after you finish public comment, you will go back and do the same thing again. What I want you to be doing is after public comment, I want you to incorporate what you heard them say. So previously you heard me say I was in favor of this because XYZ. After hearing public comment, while there are some serious concerns, I think on the whole, it's still probably a good idea. So I'm still going to vote yes, although I hear you that these are valid and real concerns.
And one reason I bring that up is it's really getting into the weeds here.
No, go for it. I
That's
love it.
Is that we've been in meetings where we've got this information and some of the board members, you can look, or especially your Zoom, you can see who's going to comment online. The board starts a discussion and they say, I like this idea, or I don't like this idea. And it looks like the board is already leaning a certain way and people drop out that are going to call in and comment.
Sure.
And there could be important information that may go, oh,
Yeah.
I make it kind of gives the appearance like I'm making a decision
Yep.
before I've heard from the public.
Yep. I see where you're
That's
going.
my fear.
And that's completely valid. So here, once you call the meeting to order, I like to include a section from the board chair about setting expectations, about what people are about to see and how they can participate. I like to say that if you don't set expectations, people still have expectations, they just don't match yours. So you are guaranteed to disappoint if you don't set the expectations. Let me show you here real quick. I showed this to the team earlier. I do a mock board meeting as a training tool. And so I have like 11 or 12 roles, and each role gets a script in this mock training, right? This is the board chair's script that I'm going to show you. And what it shows is at the beginning of the meeting, the board chair goes through and sets the expectations for the public about what they're going to see, how it's going to operate, when they can expect to be involved and how. And then at the end, so it would be equivalent to on the back of your agenda, you have a public participation guide, which this body, who is this? This is the Helena Civic Center Advisory Board, which doesn't exist anymore. In their bylaws, in September 28th of 2022, they adopted a public participation guideline. So this would sit inside of their bylaws for their board. And then each meeting, they would pull out that public participation guideline content and put it on the back of the agenda, so everybody can see it. And it says, the public shall be invited to speak on any item under consideration by the board after recognition by the presiding officer. Improper interruptions to the conduct of the board will not be allowed. Speakers should step up, state their name, do all those things. Written comments are welcome and should be provided at least so much time ahead of time through this method. While the board is in session, members of the public must preserve order and decorum. You may not interrupt proceedings, or the board, or refuse to obey orders from the presiding officer. Any board or any person who's testifying who while testifying is using indecorous or abusive language or becoming boisterous or disruptive shall be barred from further presentation. And public comment in this group was limited to 3 minutes per person per agenda item. So that's what's in their policy. And then at the beginning of the meeting, the board chair should set expectations like there is somebody in the room who has never participated in a public meeting ever in their life. They have no idea what to expect. So it would sound something like, hey, thanks so much. Welcome to our meeting this afternoon for the Parks Board. We are so excited to have you here and interested because this is your park service. We're just here to help facilitate the conversation on your behalf. So we do have times when you are encouraged, permitted, and have a right to participate in this conversation. We want to make sure that everybody's right is protected and everybody has a chance. And we want to make sure that we are moving through our business in a timely and efficient manner. So to do that, I'm going to go through and share a couple of the highlights of this policy for public engagement that we've adopted here a few years ago. And you go through and hit those things.
Okay.
Go for it.
So we've got that and we're going through our action items.
Yep.
On our agenda, we always had a place for the public to participate with anything that's not on our agenda.
You're getting ahead of me, sir. I love
I'm
it.
sorry.
That's perfect. Where did you do it? Was it up here or down here?
Down at the
Down here,
bottom.
okay.
But with that being said, in the expectations, you're talking about them being able to participate. Do we reference that you're going to have an opportunity to speak on, anything else that's not on the agenda?
Yes, sir.
Or, I mean, it's on the agenda. It showed that.
Right.
They did.
Yep, but
But-
that's the name of that section, right? Public comment for items not on the agenda.
Exactly.
Yep,
Right.
yep. And the reason you do that, not only because you are good stewards of public trust, but because in 23103 sub C, it says you have to.
Within the jurisdiction of the conducting agency.
Usually that language sounds very similar to what's on your agenda, right?
So if it's not within the jurisdiction of the Parks Board, we could say you're at the wrong meeting.
I truly, if you are giving everybody 3 minutes, I would let them run with it for 3 minutes and then say, thank you so much for bringing that up. This sounds like it might be out of our jurisdiction. We encourage you to go to X meeting and share that with them as well, but it is recorded in our minutes. Then they don't feel dismissed.
We
But-
did have a little of that with the Fish Creek, with the
Help.
trapping.
And Okay, yeah.
And well,
Big
and
Hell Creek and
Hell
the road.
Creek, too.
People hate that road.
And Hell Creek too. That was my first board meeting.
Yeah, that
Hell
was
Creek. We got rid of Hell Creek.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so you give them that rundown, assuming that they don't know what to expect, that's what you tell them. You'll see on my agenda up here, this practice agenda template. In this case, we have a policy on fair use and reservation criteria. Here's the potential action, and you'll notice I use very soft language, potential action. We're not expecting that you have to take action. Consider adopting a policy. So the language is not to move to adopt a policy because it sounds like you've already decided. Consider adopting means that it's up for discussion, but we haven't made a decision. Okay, and then you'll see on my agenda here, I have public comment in bold and italicized, and it says what it's for. So that way that chair at the beginning of the meeting could say, if you will take a look at your agenda, let's look at item number 9, unfinished business, sub 1. You'll see on that action or that item, there is a public comment period highlighted in bold and italics below. We will ask for a specific public comment or provide a specific public comment period prior to final action. But I need you to wait until we get to that point when we're in this discussion. So I will call on you as the chair when we are ready for that. I'll make it very clear. I will call for public comment 3 times before I close any public comment period.
Mm.
You're giving them the expectations, right? So they don't feel like they're going to miss it if they don't jump on it. Then they tend to be a little bit less angsty as you're moving through the agenda. Then you can also do, and then tell them if what you're here to comment on is not on this agenda, but is within the jurisdiction of this body, something that we have some kind of authority over, we invite you and encourage you to share your public comment during this section of our agenda for public comment on any items not on the agenda, but under the jurisdiction. Great.
Probably needed to do that at the time, sure.
Can we? I was looking to see if I don't want to get ahead. What forms and how much time, what constitutes adequate public comment?
Yes, that is
Written,
a fantastic question.
Oral, how
Yep.
long?
Yep.
All that stuff.
It should be through interpretive dance.
Would you please demonstrate?
No, sir.
Yeah.
No, sir. No, so typically what we see common practice, written or oral are your 2 options. I would like to have in your bylaws or your policies, how you will accept written comment and for what time period. And what I mean by that is if it's sent to individual board members and then you're forwarding it out to each other, not only is it hard to keep track of what's happening, but you may very likely will create an electronic quorum and have a potential for an illegal electronic meeting. So
Ooh.
don't email each other unless you absolutely have to. Much more appropriate and safe is to have it go through the department and let them, so if you get a public comment, forward it to them, let them bring it all together for the meeting packet and then send it out to all
Oh,
of
there
you.
you go.
Okay,
That makes,
so central place to send it. And then you'll see in here, this one says written statements are welcomed and should be provided to the presiding officer at least 3 hours prior to the meeting for distribution to the entire board. Again, this is a board that meets regularly. Yours might be more like a week, right? But what you want to avoid, and the reason you have something like that in policy, is you don't want people to walk in with a 30-page comment and hand it to you as the meeting's starting and then say, make sure you include my public comment in your decision. They're basically forcing you to postpone a decision because there's no way that you reasonably could have
Right.
reviewed it. And when you make a decision, if it's not what they like, they'll go to the court and say they didn't let me participate.
I think we had a time frame that they had to make their public comment. So the board could get that. I think there was some kind of a deadline.
Yep.
And I think Eric could let us know if that's correct, what I'm thinking.
Eric, do you know if there's a deadline for written public comment for these guys?
Yes, the comment for public, or the deadline for public comment for them is the same as it is for the commission. We provide the
Okay.
materials, we give it as close to 30 days as possible to review, and then there is a hard stop deadline for all public comments received in the written or email sense. And any comments received after that are retained but not shared.
Okay, perfect. So, and see, you have an awesome staff that's already way ahead of this.
really?
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah, that's awesome.
that's awesome.
And then at the meeting, I want to ensure that you are consistently giving everybody the same amount of time to speak. Most common I see around the state for speaking limits is 3 minutes and 5 minutes. 5 minutes is a long
Long
time to let
time.
one person speak.
Yeah.
And then make sure that you are showing them somehow that they are all getting the same amount of time. I am a fan of my little digital timer. Watch, this is so cool. Okay, so and it goes back the other way. Okay. Whether it's this or a kitchen timer or whatever, every time you have public comment, I would like to see it reset so everybody can see they get the same 3 minutes. It's back to that trust and
Okay.
transparency and consistency.
So Eric would, if we said 2 minutes, Eric would time it and tell them when the 2 minutes was up.
Yes, and I
Always.
think he has a timer that has a wonderfully loud alarm on it, which is fantastic, because then everybody knows.
I don't know that we ever had anybody go too long, but I know that he would let us know, or there was a clock up there or something.
Yeah,
I think so.
yeah. Perfect. Yeah, as long as everybody can see that they're getting the same fair shake as everybody else.
Yeah.
That's what I'm interested in. Okay. Okay. We're good on that. Okay. My favorite story to tell, I've already told it once today. So again, if you screw up bad enough, you could be personally liable. You could cost the taxpayers a bunch of money. And if it's bad enough, we'll use you as an example. Potential threats. Okay?
Oh, okay.
And on that note, the city of Great Falls messed up bad enough that we tell everybody about it. And that is, they had a very similar structure to this. They took this stuff here and made a consent agenda. So a consent agenda is where you can wrap a whole bunch of routine things into one single motion and make one motion to pass it all. Really helpful for boards that are really busy, that I have a lot of routine things. With this level, I probably wouldn't, because it does carry an additional risk. So you just, talk to your legal counsel if that's something you want to do. I would say save it for the boards that have like pages and pages and pages of things going on. City of Great Falls uses a consent agenda, and their structure is opening ceremonies, consent agenda, public comment for items on the agenda, action items, public comments for items not on the agenda. Okay, and it's been that way forever and a day for them. This was like 15 years ago, they had a fight in town because they had a contracted animal control officer. Their dog catcher was a contracted service person. And they were switching from one service provider to the other, or so they wanted to. And it was a fight for months about whether or not they should. And they finally settled on, yeah, we need to do it. So they got it through a properly noticed meeting, everything was good. And then they realized that the start date on the new contract was about 6 weeks late based on the end date of the old contract. So they had a month and a half where they were going to have no animal control in the city of Great Falls. And they said, that's not great. So they went back, and in their consent agenda, they added that next meeting, the change of the date of that start date for the contract, thinking that it's not super contentious. We've had the fight about whether or not to do it. Now we're just changing dates, right? So they went through, did their consent agenda, got to public comment for items on the agenda right before their action items. And a gal stood up, and she was from Vaughan. So she didn't even live in city limits in Great Falls. And she got up to the podium and just read these guys the riot act about how awful they are. What are you thinking? How dare you? You need to reconsider this. That's not appropriate. On and on and on, right? And got to 3 minutes, and the chair said, ma'am, your time's up. We got to wrap it up. We got to get to the next person. She would go on and get more agitated, more kind of angry. Ma'am, we really need you to stop. We need to move to the next public comment. Nope. So they had the on-duty plainclothes detective come up to the podium and escort her out of the room.
Wow.
That's the nuclear option.
Yeah.
Like, we don't ever want to get to that point. Recess the meeting and walk away and take away the platform. But unless there's imminent danger or something's really wrong, don't escort people out of the room, because you will lose in the court of public opinion almost every time. Okay. And they have more ink and more time than you do. Just. Okay, so she is being escorted out of the room. He goes up, he kind of gathers her stuff up at the podium. He takes her by the elbow and escorts her to the back of the room. They get to the back of the room, to the door, and she knees him in the groin and takes off running. So now he's laying on the floor, rolling around. She is sprinting through City Hall. She gets out to the sidewalk. They catch up with her. They arrest her, and they charged her with disorderly conduct, evading arrest, and assaulting a police officer. Those are big charges for a 3-minute public comment period about a dog catcher, right? People get passionate about things. Remind me to tell you about chickens when I get done with the story. Okay. So City of Great Falls presses charges because this woman was acting inappropriately, all the things. She got an attorney. The attorney said, tell me what went down. She said, well, I got up during public comment and they wouldn't even reconsider the decision that they made. They were just blowing me off. They weren't listening. Said, wait. Public comment happened after the consent agenda? And she said, yeah. Perfect. So they countersued and said, you violated my client's right to participate prior to final action. And who gets to decide if it's significant interest? She does, not the city, right? So this went up to the Montana Supreme Court because it was a Montana constitutional right. And the court held that because the city violated her right to participate, everything that happened after that moment was the responsibility of the city of Great Falls. So the officer getting need, that was the responsibility of the city.
Oh.
They could not go after her for those charges. And her countersuit was upheld. So typically when you mess up public process in Montana, if you mess up a statute, the remedy the judge will bring down is redo the process and do it right, typically. But in this case, you're violating a citizen's constitutional right to participate. This is almost 15 years ago. They awarded $500,000 in punitive damages and another $400,000 in court costs and attorney's fees. It was $1 million case the city of Great Falls was on the hook for because public comment sat here, not here.
Wow,
That's why this is such a big deal.
yeah.
Okay. So I don't want to tell you this to scare you because there's lots of ways to make sure this doesn't happen. And you have a fantastic team working with you to make sure it doesn't. But that's why this is not just trivial stuff. It matters. It matters because we're doing the right thing for the people. And it matters because you could be in a lot of hot water if you screw it up. Okay, side note, chickens. If you ever want to get people to a meeting, tell them you're going to regulate chickens. They will show up every time.
I've seen that in Dillon.
Yes,
Really?
every small town goes through it. Belgrade did it like 4 times. Finally put it out to a vote a couple years ago. Apparently there's nothing else to do in Glasgow in the winter. They had this fight for like 3 or 4 months. They had to move city council meetings to the school gym because they had enough people showing up. They had like hard election signs made, which we stole one with permission, that said, cluck no, chickens in Glasgow, and heck yes, chickens in Glasgow. Like, people get serious about their chickens. Okay. So when people ask me, how do we get more people to show up to our public meetings? Because engagement's really low. I say, put chickens on the agenda. Chickens or medical
That's right.
marijuana or recreational marijuana.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Which was also a hot topic in Dillon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my wife is the treasurer for the city of Dillon.
Oh,
so
sure.
I occasionally will go to a board meeting, council meeting here. Oh, boy.
Yeah. Oh, man. Okay, so you feeling good about public comment, about when to do it, how to tell people what's gonna happen, all the things? Okay,
Yeah, I think we've been doing it in the
about
right
right?
sequence.
okay. You'll see on here, this is the standard template I use for a chair if they want help. There's 2 ways that you can introduce a motion. Well, lots of ways. You can either start here with the motion on the floor is consider X. Let's hear the staff presentation, right? So you have the motion here already. You could do it here, have the motion here, and then have public comment on whatever the motion is. Or you could do all of this and not have a motion until you get to here. And then say, okay, are we ready to create a motion? Does that make sense?
Yes.
You could do any one of those. Whatever you decide to do, just do it the same way every time.
So where you say potential action
Mhm.
and ours has always just said action.
Mhm.
I like that.
You like that? Okay.
And I think that smooths it over a little bit.
Sure.
And that would be something that when the staff puts it together for
Yeah.
us, that
We can make that change pretty easy. Yeah. Good. Any other thoughts? Any different thoughts on that? Anybody absolutely hate it?
No, maybe a copy of that. would be
Sure.
nice.
Yeah, we can do that.
Mhm.
Send it to Eric can send it out to us.
Yeah. Don't look at my awful emails, please. There's so many. I'm gonna put this in here so I don't forget. Board chair intro script. There you go. Okay. So then on this intro script, you'll see, how do we do it? We call for the motion at the end, I think. So introduce the topic. So the chair says, here's what we're doing. We're looking at potentially recommending this policy to city council. They don't have any staff presentation. You could, it would fit there. Ask for board discussion, board Q&A. I like that you do board Q&A with the staff, the expert presenter. And then if you want to do motion there, you can, or you can wait. Open it up for public comment. And here you can see open public comment and ask, is there any public comment? Then pause. Ask again, is there any public comment? Then pause. Ask a final time. Last call, is there any public comment on this topic? Pause. Seeing no additional public comment, I'm going to close the public comment period. Let's go back into board discussion. You're narrating what's happening in real time for people that don't know.
Oh, I do
how it
like
works.
that.
You can't, and that's,
I do.
you do.
Yeah, I think that's good to narrate.
Beautiful.
Mine can.
I like the point on restate the motion.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
yeah. So you can,
I do too.
yeah,
Sometimes you get a little bit lost in.
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So the value to putting the motion first up here where you introduce the topic is everybody knows exactly what the question on the floor is. The drawback is you will be more likely to have to do amendments to the main to amend the motion. The value to doing the motion at the end is that you get to create the motion exactly as you want it the first time, and then you don't have to amend it. But it could be confusing for people who don't know exactly what the question on the floor is. So either way.
We actually had a time where we amended it and then we had to go back and do away with that motion
Ooh.
because of
Mhm.
an amendment.
Yep.
And then we had to really basically start
Start
all
over.
over with
Yep.
it.
Yep.
I can't
That
remember.
was tedious.
Yeah, and I go, boy, what a mess this turned out to be.
Well, and I would say, have you all adopted a specific parliamentary system? Okay, so what I would say is use it as the tool to protect everybody's interests and ability to participate and to be as expedient as possible while making good decisions. But don't let it be a weapon that people use to bully other people, and don't get so wrapped around the axle with proper parliamentary procedure that you can't get to what you're trying to do. Like I've seen groups get so wrapped around it. We're on the amendment to the amendment, and what's the question on the floor right now? Okay, let's just take a pause. What are we trying to do?
Yeah.
Let's reset. So right now, the question we think we're asking is X. That is a completely acceptable kind of control of delete. So I would rather see you do that than get stuck on semantics.
So at that point, we end up taking a vote to do away with the original amendment to get
Mhm.
back to.
The original standard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's fine. It's meant to help you make good decisions, not hinder you.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, the other thing you'll see on here. In this one, you see an estimated 15 minutes. Some people like to include estimated times for each of the topics on their agenda. I would say the only caution I have for that is do not try to cram your public comment into whatever the estimated time is, because you do not want to be in front of a judge and the judge says, why'd you not let them speak? And you say, because our agenda said we only had 15 minutes. You will lose that one every time.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's an estimate, not a hard and fast rule, but it could be helpful to help people understand about how long do you think it's going to take to get to action item 3. We don't know. If it doesn't work for you, that's totally fine. You don't have to do it. Yeah, I think that's good.
We have that on ours, don't we? About how long the presentation would
Yep.
be from the staff.
Perfect.
I think they're
approximately.
just times,
Yeah.
right, for each agenda
It's just an
item.
estimate how long.
And they are just estimates.
Perfect. That's great. I love it. Do you have bylaws or rules of procedure as a body? So you'll see at the beginning of 103 sub 1A, each agency shall develop procedures for permitting and encouraging the public to participate. And then down again at the very bottom in sub 2, the guidelines must provide policies and procedures to facilitate public participation. So I would encourage you, if you do not have existing bylaws, to consider adopting them. It helps the public, it helps with meet this requirement of the law, helps the public know what the rules of the game are, engagement are, and it can help you with expectations for your board members. So what does it mean to be an engaged board member? Do I need to read the packet before I come? Do I show up and just I have this conversation more than I would like. Need to know what's in the packet before you walk in the room. Okay. Let me show you what we have. And you are welcome to use this. This is on our website. You're welcome to use this as a template. So you'll see public participation, open meetings, notice, what is a quorum for our boards? You're just writing down things that are already true, but all in one spot. Who prepares the agenda and by when? What's our general order of business? Rules, expectations for how the board participates. Expectations, duty to vote, proxy voting that you cannot proxy vote. Conflict of interest, how public or presentations to the board and the public interacts with the board. So it's just got a whole bunch of different categories. You can take as much or as little of this as you want, and it's free and open source out there because we just want you to have tools to start from.
So that's not in this. It's.
No,
It is
something
not in
different.
here, but I will add it. Hold on, let me add it to your email here.
Okay.
And I would say talk to your legal counsel because they might have something that's way better. This
There's
is
there's a few things in statute that created the board that are overlap with what you're talking about, but not some of that detail.
No.
Did you guys?
What is your website?
MSUlocalgov.org. There you are. Okay. Let's keep going. Here. Okay, I think we're good with all of that. All right, we are, what, an hour into this? And we are done with page 1 now.
But it's been
So
interesting.
at 4 o'clock, there's a hard stop.
I'm out. Either way, I'm out. Either that or you're gonna have a 3-year-old running around the conference room. Yep. No, okay, I told you, as long as you got the intent of that 23103, the rest of it's details. So there's lots of this that doesn't apply to you and that we don't need to worry about. Let's skip to page 5 and we'll look at open meetings. So you'll see 2-3-202, 23202 is how we define a meeting in Montana for a public agency. It is the convening of a quorum of constituent membership of a public agency, whether corporal or by means of electronic equipment, to hear, discuss, or act on a matter over which they have some kind of jurisdiction. So what I like to say is, oh, sorry, that should not still be. There we go. What I like to say is, if you have a quorum and you are hearing, discussing, or acting, then you need to have an agenda that is adequately descriptive. You need to post that agenda with proper notice. You need to allow public comment prior to final action. And you must have a record of the meeting, typically in the form of minutes. Or if you've adopted the option to do it with audio, video, with timestamps, you can do that too. So if both of these are true, then these 4 have to happen. This or is a really important conjunction because, actually, hold on, let me put this on the camera so our online friends can see it. Okay. If the first 2, then you must have the last 4. Quorum, hear, discuss, or act, which both comes out of 23202, and then the agenda, notice, public comment, and minutes. Okay, that's a big or because how many board members are there?
5.
Okay, so the 3 of you sitting here, you have a quorum. Do you have a
If we
meeting?
had a meeting.
Do you have a meeting right now?
No.
Why? You have a quorum.
This is
No action items.
no action
Okay.
items.
What if I had a conversation with all 3 of you saying, hey, guys, what do you think about adding staff to the Grant Coors Ranch? Is that federal or is that state?
Federal.
Dang it. Almost. How about Arrowhead? Is Arrowhead a state park?
No.
Dang it. Yeah, I'm out of Powell County, then I'm out. I say, what about establishing a state park in Elliston? Let's talk about what that would look like, and we have a conversation. Even if no action is taken, because this is an or, it's any one of the three.
Oh,
So if you have a quorum and I sit down and coerce you into a conversation about putting a state park in Elliston, you now have a meeting. And it was not a public meeting. It was not legal. Does that make sense? It's a really scary place to be because you can accidentally get into a situation that should have been properly noticed. Same is true, you'll see on there, it says that quorum can be convened either corporal or by electronic means. That means you can do it via Zoom. It also means if you group text, if you send an email to the whole body and they reply all, that's a meeting. The new one that I've been seeing, please don't do this. Shared documents like Google Workspace, where everybody, all of the board members have access to get in there and like edit policies and things, drafts. Don't do that. Because the public has access, it doesn't have access to it, but you do, and it's iterative, right? So you are in ways creating policy without them being able to see and observe the deliberations.
it's almost like you better not
Basically, yeah.
do anything.
So, yes, and there's, what did we say, 5 of you?
Yeah.
Okay, so if 2 of you have a conversation about something on an upcoming agenda, is it illegal?
No,
No, why?
it's not a quorum.
Not a quorum, okay? So let's say the 5 of us are a board. And we have a conversation about something, I'm like, hey, did you see that thing on the next agenda? I think this is a really terrible idea. I'm gonna try to shoot it down. And whether she agrees with me or not, she now knows how I am gonna vote on this, right? Or what I think I'm gonna vote on this. And then we leave the coffee shop, you go to the post office and you see him, and you say, hey, Ashley really doesn't like this idea. I wonder if we should continue keeping it on the agenda, or if we should postpone it. How many members have deliberated outside of the view of the public now?
3.
3. This is what we call a walking meeting or little e ex parte communication. That is considered an illegal meeting. Because a quorum of the body has deliberated on the merits of the topic outside of the view of the public. So just be careful with that. Questions or thoughts?
Now I'm dutifully scared.
Okay, I've earned my paycheck today. So I will say there are easy ways to not get in trouble with this. If you do need to send something to the whole board for any reason, I would suggest first to try to go through Eric because he's a safe space, right? As
Yes,
far as he's like the free square. on
thank you,
bingo,
Eric.
Right? If he's contacted all of you, there's no problem because he's not part of the governing body, the decision-making body. So try to route it through him if you can. If for whatever reason you have to send it to everybody, BCC everybody. So if one person accidentally replies all, which we have all done, it still only goes to the original sender. You would have to manually add everybody back into the CC line for it to go to the whole group. So BCC everybody as much as you possibly can. If you don't have a separate email account for your board service, I would suggest you create one. Do you have, does
We have board, you have your email at home, but you have a
We have a
board
as well.
email.
Right.
perfect. And
So
do
it's
you
by the
operate
districts.
out of your board email or do you forward it to your personal email?
Oh, I operate out of the
The
board.
board.
Remember, I'm education, not enforcement. You can tell me all the laws that you break and I don't have anything to
No,
say about it.
I'm not gonna say anything.
I'm already scared, woman. Okay, so if you have a personal email, what I suggest is to have a board email that's separate, which I think they've already set you up with to do, and operate out of that board email. So if somebody sends an email to your personal email about board business, the only action you should take with that in your personal email is to forward it to your board email and then respond from your board email. So that if you get a FOIA request or a subpoena, you can say, nothing in my personal account had any activity for my board service. It all came out of here. And here's the password, have at it. It's not that I think you're doing anything shady, but I personally don't want some attorney sifting through my 57,000 Gmail emails, right? It's just not where I want their space to be. So separation between personal accounts and board service accounts can protect you and protect the agency, because then when you transition off, they still have access to all of your correspondence. So if somebody comes up with a lawsuit, they can say, yeah, we can pull that, sure, let's look at it. And then it doesn't cause you a major headache. Good? Okay.
I just was trying to think of a couple instances we had, like the Smith River
Mhm.
with the permit system for the one individual. I actually got emails from him
Mm,
and recommended him to participate, get on the comment. You had to get a hold of the office to get on the comment
Yep,
string.
yep,
And because he couldn't attend, but those are the type of things,
Yeah.
but yeah, that one was a little bit difficult.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And what I would say is you can use language that doesn't make them feel dismissed, but it also is helpful for everybody to hear it. So it shouldn't come from you. They should be advocating as citizens, right? So,
Yeah.
hey, I think this is a really important point. I can't bring this to the board as an individual, but you can bring it to us as a body. So what I would encourage you to do is please come to our next meeting. It's this day, virtual or in person, and share this during public comment so the entire board can hear it at once. Whether
Yep,
you agree
that-
with it or not.
that's exactly what he did.
Perfect. I love it.
So on the bottom there, we
Uh-huh.
have public comment
Uh-huh.
and minutes and such. Our minutes of our meeting are timestamped
Mhm.
and were recorded, and it's on YouTube and it's on our website, the past meetings.
Perfect.
So the public can see all of it
Awesome.
all the time. Just occasionally we get a little bit behind posting a meeting on the YouTube, but
Yeah.
it's there.
Awesome. What about if for some reason 3 of you were in a car together to go do a site visit?
A
Could be a meeting.
quorum,
Yeah.
and we're gonna discuss.
So what I would say in a situation like today, where you're all in the same room, but it's not for a meeting, is post a notice wherever you typically post your meetings and say a quorum of the board will be present at this event. It is not a meeting and there will be no discussion or decision on topics under the board's jurisdiction. It's a training. What you're doing is telling the public, we know that you know that we should know that we should tell you anytime that we're meeting, right? It's a transparency and trust building exercise.
I think that's what they did with
It
this.
is.
So again, you guys have amazing staff that are way on top of this. Okay, so yes, your recordings, you'll see in 23212 public meeting minutes. Appropriate minutes should be taken and are available for inspection by the public, which you do well. If an audio recording is made and designated as official, the recording constitutes the official meeting record. If an official meeting record, if an official recording is made, a written record of the meeting must also be made and must include the information specified below, which I think Eric is already way on top of because they have people transcribe the meetings. So that covers that as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, we missed one. We missed a whole section. Okay, let's go back up to 23203. This sure will not stay tucked in. Okay. 23203. This statute is the one that says you must keep all open meetings open to the public except these 2 specific situations. And that is number 1, if you are dealing with personal private information that typically looks like doing evaluations for employees of the body. So school boards and principals or school boards and coaches is a common one because the school board actually oversees that person instead of like in a city, the council does not supervise the clerk. The council makes the policy and the mayor supervises the clerk. So the council should not be involved in disciplining or evaluating the clerk,
Gotcha.
right? But you all, I don't think should have to deal with much of that.
We don't.
The other time, and maybe more applicable for you, that you could potentially close a meeting is sub 4. Yeah. When you are discussing litigation strategy against a private party, where having that meeting, that strategy meeting open to the public would be detrimental to your litigating position. What that means is if you got to talk to the attorney about some lawsuit, you can close the meeting to talk about strategy for the lawsuit. If it's against a private party. If you're suing the feds or a county is suing you, those are public parties on both sides. There is no expectation of privacy. And those meetings have to be open. And you can bet your opposing counsel will be in the room listening to your strategy session. If you're good.
So back to that one incident where the individual was cited and then he challenged the parks and it was Hank, it went to the director
Uh-huh.
and then it got routed back to us.
Yep.
I don't think that was an open public meeting, that when we listened to all of that, I don't know.
Okay.
And should have it been, or?
I would want to talk to legal counsel to see what the conditions around it were.
Yeah,
If it's straight up, it's a hearing, for an appeal for a citation, if that was absolutely it, probably would be an open meeting, because nothing in that would suggest to me that it would fit under personal private information as defined by this Montana
Yeah, there-
Supreme Court case.
it wasn't personal information.
Okay, it could be that it was a hearing and it was just not advertised in the same way and people just didn't show up to it.
Yeah, well, he did, and that was,
He did,
Yeah.
he should, yeah, okay,
he zoomed it.
okay.
So is the mechanism for that when like the board would make a decision to go into like executive session? Is that the right term?
Yes, so executive session and closed meeting are the same thing.
Okay,
And the board chair typically is the one that makes that decision. Well, for sub 3, the board chair makes the decision. Yeah, so on sub 4, you could either have the board make the decision, or you could put it to a vote of the board itself and say, do you think we should go into closed session to have this conversation with the attorney? You could vote on that. I don't think it would be fully necessary. So there again, talk to counsel. They're the ones that have to defend you. So they're gonna tell you what is most defensible for them. Do whatever they say. Yeah. That, again, you should have lots of support and they're gonna let you know that it's coming. So you're not gonna have to navigate it on your own. Sub 6, do you guys have any committees of the board? Like of the 5 of you, do you make a 3-person committee or a 2-person committee? Perfect.
No.
If that ever changes, call me. For now, don't worry about it. Also, not a fan. If you can do it without committees, do it without committees. Okay, I think all of the rest of that is good. Do you want to take a break? Before, no, good,
Let's keep, I mean, I'm okay with.
I'm
keeping
good.
going.
good. If, well,
Right.
please be adults and feel free to get up and take care of your needs as needed. All right, let's skip to page 15. The rest of this is extra, but I don't think it's super critical that we cover that. Page 15, the top 22103. This is the statute that says we in Montana believe that by putting you in a position of public employment or office, we are giving you a public trust created by the confidence that the electorate reposes in the integrity of that public officer. That person, that public employee or officer, shall carry out the individual's duties for the benefit of the people of the state. What that means is you are now a public thing. You sit in a public seat. The private you and the public you are 2 different people, right? You can have personal, private feelings about something. And as a public official, those feelings in many ways don't matter. Your job is to represent everybody else that you are responsible for, not how you feel.
And in that position a lot.
It's hard,
Life.
right? Yeah,
Well,
yeah. So recognizing that there is a legal expectation of public trust, and that if you deviate from that expectation, you are liable to the people of the state and subject to the penalties provided in this part for abuse of the public's trust. So you're saying not only are you put in a position of trust, but we have made it illegal for you to violate that trust. So even if it may not be criminal activity, there could be something that happens that would violate the code of ethics to violate public trust, and you could be prosecuted on that. There's very, very easy ways to stay out of that. Okay, so again, I don't want to scare you. 22104, so the next one down, rules of conduct. Here's 2 big things. You as a public officer cannot use private or confidential information that you receive in course of your public office duties. So you find some confidential information and then use that information to substantially benefit your individual personal economic interests. The example I used to use was if you were on the planning board in Belgrade and there's some ag land right outside of town and you heard rumor that Amazon's gonna buy the parcel next to it, can you run out and buy that ag land before its value shoots up because now it can be converted to commercial? I can't use that anymore because Amazon did that. So it's not a hypothetical anymore. But that's what that means. And then B is you cannot accept a gift of substantial value or substantial economic benefit tantamount to a gift. So a gift of substantial value is $100, something that is worth $100 or more by reasonable assessment. It was 50 for a really long time, and I have complained about that for 10 years, that it didn't keep up with inflation, and they changed it 2 sessions ago. You'll find that on page 13 in definitions, highlighted in sub 3, gift of substantial value. And it also says what is not substantial value. So let's say you go to a training and you have pizza, and it's really good pizza, and it's worth over $100. Is if it's in the course of your official duties, then it's not violating the law. Does that make sense?
I only had 3 pieces.
Oh, good. Then it's only a $47 value.
I had 4.
Oh, okay, so 2 pieces to that. So if you look back at 15, so substantial value, mean $100 or more, or it could look like substantial economic benefit. So that would be, let's say the going rate for a mortgage right now is 6.79%. And a banker says, you know, I really want this state park in Elliston. So if you will make the state park in Elliston happen, I could get you a deal on your mortgage for 4.3%.
Ooh, wouldn't that be
That'd
lovely?
be fancy. Have all kinds of parks in Elliston.
Yeah,
No money's changing hands, right?
right.
But it's a economic benefit. That's what that's about. And then, ooh, tell me this. This is fun. So it's $100. And then the second piece of it is that would tend to improperly influence a reasonable person in that position to depart from the faithful and impartial discharge of that person's public duties, or a reward for something that you did that would be not impartial or faithful discharge of those duties. What about, so it's $100. City of Bozeman commissioners for a long time received 2 tickets to the movie theater every month from the local theater. They were like $6 a piece at the time. So $12 for 2 tickets once a month. Would that violate this?
It wouldn't be in any reasonable expectation of any return,
Okay,
right?
so they decided, yeah, that might not look great because it doesn't say $100 cumulative value, $100 one-time value. It doesn't say, right? So the city said, you know what, we're not gonna do this anymore, appreciate it, but we don't want to put the commissioners in a position where
Right.
they could have question.
Mhm.
2 years after they stopped that practice, that movie theater closed down, and the owners wanted to sell that property, and to sell it for the best price, the best value, they had to rezone it. So they went to the city commission and said, we need to rezone this from commercial A to commercial C to get us a benefit. What would have been the optics had they continued to give 2 tickets every month to every commissioner for the last 2 years?
Oh, yeah,
See, this
Yeah.
gets real tricky real fast.
I can see it there.
What about, let's say you own a coffee shop in Glendive, okay? Fancy coffee, like a floofy coffee. And there is an espresso machine for sale here in Helena. And you have, let's say you work for the city of Glendive and there's a conference in Helena. We're doing clerk school in Helena.
Mhm.
You take the city vehicle, you drive to Helena. While you're here, can you pick up that espresso maker? Why not? It doesn't cost the city anything.
Isn't that sad? Common sense doesn't always come in.
What's the argument?
The appearance.
The appearance. So if you are the competing coffee shop in Glendive, there's a
Mhm.
thriving coffee shop market in Glendive, right? If you're the competing coffee shop and you say that's unfair, for me to get that, I would have had to incur the expense of driving to Helena, but my competitor did not. Also, what if you're driving back home, you get out by Miles City, somebody rear ends you on the interstate, and that espresso machine that is super heavy goes through either the front or the back?
Oh, man. Okay.
Who's liable? The city would be, because you're in the city car on city duty, right? So there's a lot more nuance to this than you see
Kind
just
of
reading the
have to think
statute.
about all that.
I know, it's a lot. I was doing this one time at the clerks conference, I think it was the municipal clerks conference. This gal sitting in the front table, and she just went ghost white, and I was like, hey, what's up? And she's like, I think we messed up. All right, tell me what's going on. She goes, well, we contracted with an engineering firm to do our water project, and we came in ahead of schedule and under budget. How often do municipal water projects come in ahead of
Never.
schedule and under budget? Never. That might be the only time ever in the state that it's happened. So that engineering firm, after the project was over, showed up at City Hall, and it's a small town, and gave all the office staff the waist length Carhartt jackets with their names embroidered on it. And this is when it was $50, right? And she said, "Is that bad?" And I said, "What are you thinking?" She goes, "Well, they're more than $50. It might have been, it looked like a reward. And on the back of those jackets had XYZ engineering.
Oh,
And we're going out to bid for our sewer project in 6 months. So when that competing engineering firm comes in to drop off their bid in the office, and all the office staff have a different engineering firm emblazoned across their back, what's the expectation or appearance that they get a fair shake? These are the kinds of nuances that the code of ethics doesn't on its face contemplate very clearly, but that's where we see it show up. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right. The other thing that you need to know about code of ethics, page 16 and 17. So we're looking at 2.2, 121, and 122. 121 says, as a public official, you may not use public time, facilities, equipment, letterhead, supplies, personnel, or funds to support or benefit your private business.
Okay.
Should be clear. You also cannot allow your friends to use any of those things. We had to put that in there for a reason. This wasn't the reason, but it was happening at the same time. I did a municipal training and I asked them, the shop staff, I said, or the public works crew, I said, "Can you go into the city shop on Saturday and change the oil in your truck?" And they said, "Yes." And I said, "Why are you so confident?" And they said, "Because there's a note on the door from the mayor that says we can." I said, "Please take that note down." Because again, what happens if you're in there on the weekend, you and your buddy are changing your oil and a jack fails? Who's responsible? The city is, even if it's outside of time, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a commissioner one time a county commissioner that liked to test new road plow equipment and new paving equipment by paving the road to their house.
Uh-huh.
Not a good look.
I like that.
do you have his number?
Oh,
It's little things. And there is such a thing as de minimis use. But for the most part, I would say avoid using any public resource for anything that's not specifically for that role. City clerk using the city copier for the Little League, her son's Little League baseball flyers, those kind of things, right? It's a gray area, but it very easily slips into you shouldn't be doing these things. So you can't do that to benefit yourself. You also, or the rest of that, you can't use your official position to hurt your competitor's business. Again, I don't know why we had to put that in there, but we had to put that in there. And then on 122 on the next page, you cannot use any of those things. And this is important. You cannot use any of those same things to advocate for or against a ballot issue or a candidate.
okay.
So if you need to go testify on something, if you walk in and say, "Hey, I'm on the state parks board," you have an elevated status. And as soon as you say that, even if you say, I serve on the state parks board, but I'm here representing only myself, I've given the implication that I'm representing myself, but really I'm here representing this other entity, right? Two things that are wrong with that. You don't have the authorization to represent the position of the board. And it will give you an outsized status that would potentially likely violate this statute. One of the
Good.
things, reason not to testify.
Yeah.
One of the things that comes up that is more practical that I see a lot is things like campaign signs in your yard. Because it says you can't use public time. What are your office hours? You don't have it.
No.
That's right.
So when the public says, well, they're a official all the time, and they've got a campaign sign in their yard for this initiative, maybe I should vote for it because they're voting for it, or maybe I don't want to vote for it because they're voting, whatever it is, right? But those are the things that you don't lose your individual right to participate in the democratic process by virtue of your service, but pay attention to what the perception is based on your actions. Even though I am not an elected official and have no aspirations to ever be an elected official because of the work that I do, So in our house, we call it the compound. We basically share a yard with my parents because it's one massive building. And the incumbent county commissioner and the competing county commissioner, the challenger, both wanted to put yard signs in the front sign. She had worked for the incumbent commissioner in high school, and my husband does a bunch of welding work for the challenging commissioner. So not a great look for either one of us, right? So mom goes, we can't have yard signs up because Ashley works with local governments and we can't support or deny any of it. I was like, that was a lie, but
But a good one.
But a good one, yeah. So think about those things in your daily life. More often than not, the things that violate the code of ethics are little things that we don't even think about. Very rarely is it the big, like intentional, oh my gosh, you embezzled a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah. Okay, thoughts or questions on the code of ethics?
Do you guys ever get gifts as board members?
No,
Has
we
that
didn't
ever
get our
happened?
jackets.
Dang it.
No, I wanted to, going back, he.
Did we get our jackets?
No, not that.
No.
Somebody wanted to discuss something with us, and over lunch. But.
Would that be okay?
And he wanted to pay. So I
Would that be
needed to
okay?
talk with me, to talk with us personally, and
Yeah.
at one time, and, but I just. Let it visit it on the phone.
Yeah.
Is all,
Yeah.
but I didn't accept a
Yeah.
meal from him just because
Yeah.
that, like you said, that just doesn't look sound.
Yeah, it could look a little suspicious.
What about like commenting on things that are not just comments? You're talking about other things like legislative, like sometimes being on the Parks Board gives you a certain viewpoint of things. And so like I may comment on Forest Service actions. I
Mhm.
might say, yeah, I'm interested in this. I'm on the Parks Board.
Mhm. What I would say is, yes, I'm interested in this. My name is Ashley Kent and I live in Powell County.
Okay,
Don't even tell them that you're on the Parks Board.
okay,
Because if somebody knows, they may call you out on it. And they say, well, aren't you on that Parks Board? And you can say, thanks so much for asking that question. It's a great opportunity to clarify. I am on the Parks Board, but I am here only representing my private interest as a private
Right.
citizen.
Right.
So don't lead with it because it will immediately put you in the category of you're here representing the Parks Board. But
okay,
if somebody asks about it, then make that distinction of, yes, I am, and that's not why I'm here today. I'm here in a different capacity.
gotcha.
That's a great question. So the reason, that was your comment spurred me onto another thing. The reason that we have the 0 to 100 wiggle room is because there are times when it is appropriate to accept small gifts or accept a coffee from somebody. So you can sit down and have a conversation. It's a way to build connection with people.
Mhm.
The city of Bozeman, beyond, so everybody has to follow the state statutes for code of ethics. The city of Bozeman adopted an additional, more stringent code of ethics in their charter. And part of that code of ethics said, our citizens or our employees, we want them to be above reproach. They will not accept a gift of any economic value for any reason.
Mm.
Do you remember in 2009 when the R-bar blew up on Main Street?
Yes,
Okay, were you in town too?
yes.
I was too. One person lost her life that day. It was Tara. There was a whole bunch of people that should have been in the building that weren't for only God knows what reason. And the emergency response was absolutely incredible. They did a fantastic job of responding, of protecting the rest of the public, doing everything they had to do. Northwestern Energy was a dirty word in Bozeman for about 5 years. Like there were bumper stickers and signs and all the things because they caused a tragedy, right? So for 6 or 8 months after that day in May, there was not a paramedic, a firefighter, a police person in Bozeman who would go out to eat that wouldn't get their dinner paid for, or they would try, right? A little boy came into the fire station the next week and he had cupcakes. And I think they were red and black, like the Bozeman Hawks, red and black. And then he came into the front desk or the front table and he said, Mr. Firefighter, thank you so much for keeping our community safe. We wanted to bake you treats. So came in. That code of ethics explicitly prohibited them from taking any gifts, including the little boy's cupcakes, including any kind of payment for meals outside off duty, outside of their jobs. It created a connection and relationship building nightmare for the city because their employees had to choose between responding to the generosity and community building efforts of the public or not violating their employer's policies. So they have since backed off on that, and they no longer have the zero economic value in their ethics, because that's exactly why that wiggle room exists. So when the little kid comes up and gives you the cupcake, you can take the cupcake. Now, what the firefighters did, because they are a cunning lot, is they put a folding table up in the vestibule, like in the entryway, and they put a sign on it that said for public consumption. And then the firefighters ate all the cupcakes. But technically, they didn't accept the gift because
It's,
on page 13, it says it does not count if that gift is not used, returned to the donor, or where is it? If it's given away, it doesn't count. So they gave it away to the public, and then the firefighters get them all. So that's why these little nuances exist.
So when that R&R that blew up.
Yeah.
I was in Dallas at an Elk Foundation National Convention.
Yeah.
And the booth right next to me was Larry Zabel.
well,
And it just crushed him that day when that
Yeah.
happened. I mean, they were the next booth.
Yeah.
Next to us.
My cousin owned Boodles, which was part of the block that blew up.
mhm.
Yeah. Small world.
Yeah, it was a absolute tragedy. I was on campus and it rumbled on campus, like, yeah. Okay. Code of ethics is done. Now we just gotta talk meeting management, which we kind of already did. Let me show you real quick, since we're here, and Eric has this link in our web, or on our webpage, we have this site. It's partly for public officials. This is the online course that I created based on Robert's rules and Title II, basically. You can go here. It's a free course. It's self-paced, so you don't have to log in at any time. You can do it from anywhere that you have internet, and you can decide how much or little of it you want to do. What I showed the group this morning was this Unit 5, because we were talking about if you get stuck in the main motion, an amendment to the main, an amendment to the amendment kind of mess, I do have sample examples of what that looks like. So you have the main motion, I have an amendment to the main motion, and then somebody else amended the amendment, and it goes through how you deal with each of those. The other thought,
If that happens when you're amending amendment,
uh-huh.
so is there comment between each one of those?
There can be, your statutory requirement is to provide an opportunity for public comment prior to final action.
Final action.
So if you need to amend your motion, that's not considered a final action.
Okay.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good, because otherwise the meeting could go on
Yeah,
to
forever.
midnight.
Well,
Yeah.
Right. You know,
just as the chair, you're wondering, are you
yeah.
getting
You're
it
doing
right?
the right thing.
For-
Yep, for sure. Yeah, so we covered that in this course, and then the other two big motions we cover are dividing the question and calling the question. So calling the question is when you're in debate, one member of the board, and only the board can make this motion, board member can make this motion. I call the question. I move to call the question, and that is, we are gonna end debate right now. No more discussion. We're gonna vote on the question. We're not gonna continue this discussion. Thing is, you are restricting the rights of the other board members to discuss this topic. So you can't just call it and then you immediately go to the question. When you call the question, it now is a new motion that's on the floor, and it takes a 2/3 vote of the board to approve it, because you're limiting their rights to discuss, right? So if I call the question of the 5 of us, I need 3 other people to agree with me before we shut down debate and go straight to the question. Make sense?
Or 2 other, because you're the third.
Would 3/5 would not get you there, would it?
On a 5-minute.
No, it would be 60%, and you need 66%. You need
Okay.
2/3. So yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, math, man. Okay. And then divide the question. Let's say you have a motion on the floor that's pretty complex. Divide the question is so that you could split those 2 topics into individual questions, individual motions. So if one's gonna pass, but the other one's dragging it down, divide it, pass the one that's gonna pass, and then deal with the other one separately. That's what divide the question does.
And that's what Liz did with that on the Smith.
You use divide the question,
Yeah, we had two different things.
love it.
Yeah. And then, yeah, it worked out great.
Good, good. When you make a motion, what you're saying is this is something that this body needs to consider. Even if you adamantly disagree with it, you can make the motion or second the motion. Making or seconding a motion does not mean that you are in support of that action. It just means you need to talk about it.
Okay.
So I could make the motion, you second it, we both vote against it. Because the point is to get the conversation in front of the body and make a decision. Not necessarily, the point is when you make a motion, it's not that you want to approve it, it's that you want to have the conversation.
Okay.
Okay, two things. Go,
I was
go
just
for
gonna
it.
say, you can't vote it down if it's not on the table.
Exactly, exactly. So the other two things, let me write these down so I don't forget. Affirmative, yep. And so if you vote, let's say we have an act or a motion on the table and we vote it down 3-1 or 4-1. And that one person says, no, we need to reconsider this. We need to reconsider this. They don't have the standing because they were not on the prevailing side. But if anybody who was on the prevailing side of the vote decides they want to reconsider that, they can. So they can call it back up, but you had to be on the prevailing side to be eligible to call something for reconsideration. That makes sense?
Yes.
Okay. I also love to see when people make motions in the affirmative. What that means is I move to approve this new set of bylaws. Even if I disagree with it, the motion is clear that are we wanting to do this or not? Versus I move that we don't approve these bylaws. That gets very confusing because then if I say I, am I saying that I do want to or I don't want to? And people can get confused on how they vote. So make the motion in the affirmative, and then if you don't support it, vote against it. Tracking?
Okay,
Okay, does that make sense?
yeah.
You would have if you're saying, well, you have the discussion
Yeah.
where you can clarify your position
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
You just gotta have it on the table.
Exactly. And you could even say, I personally don't think that this is a great idea to adopt these bylaws as they've been amended. With that said, I think we need to have the conversation. So I move to adopt the bylaws as amended. Somebody else seconds, then you say, I disagree. I don't think we should do this. And then you vote no. But it's clear about what you're voting. So the process of moving and seconding is it's a mechanism to get the question on the floor. It's not an indication of your support.
You know, I had never actually really thought that out.
Mhm.
I mean, I hadn't.
It's super common.
Mhm.
Yeah. People will say, well, I'm not gonna make the motions. I don't support that. Doesn't matter. And I also don't like when people use postponing a motion indefinitely as a way to not deal with it. Just vote it down. If you think it's not a good idea, vote it down. There are times when it absolutely is appropriate to postpone something like to the next meeting because we don't have enough information and we'll have it by the next meeting. 100% support that. But don't make a motion, second it, have a conversation, and then I move to postpone indefinitely. Because now it just sits out there in limbo and it's never resolved. It's not the way that tool is supposed to be used.
Going back to the call the question is, that's kind of used like if you kind of get stuck and going in circles in a discussion.
Yeah. If we're having the same argument and we are on opposite sides and we just keep making the same points back and forth, you can say, all right, I call the question.
Yeah.
And so it's to stop redundant and unproductive discussion after all of the points have already been made. What else do we got? Look at my list and see if I missed anything. So contentious topics, I usually tell people how I set up contentious topics to avoid the overflow of emotion, and it is exactly like this. You do it the exact way that I tell everybody else to do it. So kudos, that's great. And let's say you do have that contentious topic, before you ever get in the room, pay attention to what's going on social media and at the cafe and in a newspaper. Listen to what people's concerns are. I highly encourage you to not engage online. That is not the place that we have decided is the proper place for public square for conversation. And you do not have as much time as they do to make points. Like, it is basically a fruitless effort. But pay attention to what they're saying, because you want the board to be asking the same questions that the public has about that topic. They want to see that you're as concerned as they are, that you're not rubber stamping things, that you are thinking critically. So know what they're going to ask, what their concerns are, and bring that with you. And when the staff presentation happens, they should also be addressing those things because they're savvy and they're paying attention. And then you as the board, you ask the questions that you know are waiting in public comment, because then you get to have it heard without them being unruly. And then when they ask it again, it's the second or third time they've heard that material, and they've heard it from the staff and they've heard it from the board member, and now they're asking and it's the same answer every time. It's a way to bring the tension down and to build rapport with the people that are likely going to be the strongest opponents to whatever's happening. Make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. Closed meetings, walking meetings. Oh, this thing, oh, you can't see this. So with the estimated times, I worked for a healthcare nonprofit for a while, and during the executive team meetings, they would have the estimated time, 5, 10, or 15 minutes. And then they would have an I, a D, or a C next to it. And it was inform, decide, or consult. And what that meant, so it was like with the director's reports, that would have been the inform time. Deciding would have been action items, and consult would have been board member discussion or board member correspondence, or what's the word? When you say, I had this conversation outside of a meeting and now I'm fixing it. Crap.
Ex parte.
No. Huh. It'll come back to me. Look at these guys. I think they had it.
Where till you get to be
You're saying-
70?
Oh,
Or 73.
let me look at,
It's way worse.
Eric sent me the agenda earlier. Oh, there's the Parks Board agenda. Sorry, I just saw that. Example agenda. These guys, was it disclosure? Maybe it's disclosure is the word I want. Yes, disclosure. That's what I wanted. If you accidentally have a meeting that wasn't open,
Mhm.
you can disclose it at the next meeting and say, hey, myself and 2 of the commissioners or 2 of the other board members were at this site and we were just checking things out, hanging out. We were going rafting for the day. I don't know why, but you guys are friends, okay? So you're going rafting for the day and somebody comes up and asks you a question about something and forced you into a meeting that you didn't plan on. At your next meeting during your board member report, you disclose that accidental meeting and tell the rest of the group and the public what the conversation was about, and basically say that that's it. You're now in the know as much as I am. So it's a transparency effort to say it wasn't on purpose and I'm not hiding anything. Okay, let me look at your agenda in minutes real quick. Oops. I wonder why that's not showing up. I don't know. Roll call, okay. Action items, I like it. Oh, that's beautiful. Entertain a motion. See, you have soft language in there too.
Okay,
Public comment or discussion.
Entertain.
Entertain the motion too.
Very entertaining.
Heck yeah, it is.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Yes,
Our time's at.
I'm out. Yep. Oh, we have a couple of commissioners that, bless their souls, this is the problem with small town Montana. They will do their commission meeting, adjourn, and 2 of the 3 commissioners will go to the bar across the street and decompress. I'm like, guys,
Oh,
stop. Oh, yeah. All right, I don't see anything else that I have, that I need to make points on. So if you have any other questions, I am all ears.
okay, I have a couple
Yes, sir.
questions. I'm no longer the chair on this board. I was,
Awesome.
and so when we started a meeting, I let the board drive, kind of drive the discussion
Mhm.
and the motions. and the only participation I did was just to kind of keep them moving. I would vote, but I never brought up a motion
Mhm.
or anything. Is that the proper way to do it? I mean, I didn't know what the chair's
Mhm.
really function should be.
That is a great question, and it's dependent on your bylaws,
Which we don't have.
which you don't have. So here's what I would do. I would look at statute and see if there's any definition for the officers of the board and what their roles and responsibilities are. If there's not, then define that in your bylaws. Look at peer organizations, so other statewide scope boards, and see what they do. And you don't have to follow it blindly, but try to match for best practice the best you can.
Yeah.
But the short answer is you did it right, and there's nothing that said that you should have done it any other way, because there's no defining
Right.
policy.
I don't think we ever had an issue that I needed to bring something up. There was in the discussion, I would participate,
Sure.
but I
Yeah.
never made the motion or
Yep. Now, do you represent a region unique to your position that nobody else represents?
region two.
Yeah,
Okay, so my argument would be, does that mean that the people in Region 2 do not have access to contributing to those motions because our person happens to be the chair?
that's a
Right.
point. I think you,
I think he's able to. Some of that is laid out in the actual structure statutorily that set up the board. I know it says that, I just remember it saying that the chairman can vote.
Yep.
Right.
You know, and I don't
Yep.
remember what else off the top of my head, but
Yeah,
it was pretty cut and dry.
okay,
I was
perfect.
just
That's a great.
questions when they're trying to run a meeting,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
this would have been great 4 years ago.
Super helpful 4 years late.
They,
Yes.
they brought me the white book. I was
Yep.
having, are you
Yep.
kidding?
Well, and our director is the one that organized this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's
Mhm.
very,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
very great, valuable resource
Yeah.
for you guys.
So the funny thing, when I came up, they said I was in the chair, I came up to meet. Well, what are you here for? I go,
I don't know.
don't know what I mean. Tell me what I'm doing. Well, Robert's rules. And they went and they got this book and it was like that. And then Hank came in and he said, what are you doing? And I told him, and I said, so they give me this for the Robert's rules. He says, what? And he went back to his office and he came out with this little paperback.
The
that
little
was
red
about
one.
that. It
Yes.
was orange to red. And he says,
Yes.
this is what I use.
Yep. I have that
Yeah,
one, which is
hugged
in
him.
brief. I have the full one, and then I have the Robert's Rules for Dummies, the yellow one.
Oh, I didn't see that
Oh,
one.
it's great. Yeah. There are things in Robert's Rules that you can't do based on state law, right? Like, you can't vote by proxy. You can in Robert's Rules, but you can't under state law.
Gotcha.
So did we ever vote for someone that couldn't attend the meeting?
I think it was brought up early on. I don't know that we ever
We
followed.
always had a quorum and that was,
Well, and then we had the Zoom and so people were able.
Yeah.
Okay. We were good.
Some of the things about like making immediate motions or postponing motions are a little bit wonky because they don't fit state law. By and large, if you're following state statute, use Robert's Rules to the extent that it makes your meetings easier, but it's not one of those things you have to be hard and fast about. Well, Robert's Rules says we have to stand up before we make this motion. You will be in shape if you follow the formal rules.
all
though.
the standards.
Yeah,
Recognized, yeah.
yeah. All right, anything else?
I'm curious
good
if anyone
information.
online has questions.
Yeah. Oh, is this how many people we have now?
Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. Folks online, first of all, thank you for hanging in there because I know it is painful to do a 2 or 3 hour meeting virtually. Do you have any questions, thoughts, or experiences that we should have a conversation about?
So
Yeah,
would,
hear you.
would Eric
Yeah.
call on them?
Oh, I think we got one. Like when you're fishing and you're not setting up.
I'm here,
Hi.
John,
It's
John.
John.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, you guys are covering good stuff. Yeah. pretty much covered it. Covered everything that I can think of.
Great. All right. Anybody else online? Thank you for hanging in there, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Eric, is there anything from the department perspective that we should be thinking about that we haven't touched on?
The bathroom.
Kind of step away.
Okay, it's pretty. This says 2:06. I was like, there's no way we did that in an hour. All right, well, I will hang out for a bit. If you have questions, happy to answer them. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for coming to see us from Glendive. Awesome.
It was fun.
Good, I'm glad, I am glad. And the system of government that we operate with in our country, in our state, is solely dependent on people like you volunteering to serve, to step up, to be the people in the state that deal with these questions, that respond to the community needs. So thank you for what you do, because the system wouldn't work if you weren't willing to fill the seats.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, thank you all.
And anybody wanting to come down Eastern Montana, give me a holler.
Okay.
I'll give you the grand tour.
Aw,
And it's better than you think.
We met at Makoshika.
Yes,
when
That's
we went
awesome.
down. It was fun.
yes,
I will be in, well, I have to go to Sydney in April. So I might-
really?
Yeah.
Okay, let me know.
Okay,
We live out on the Bloomfield, or Sydney, off the Sydney Highway, so.
okay, so right
Bloomfield-
there, we're right on the way.
Bloomfield Ritchie Road.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's only
All right.
10 miles off.
That's not bad. That's like a rounding error in eastern Montana.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, well, thank you so much.
Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you.
I don't know if I can end this.
Eric might need to do it.
So when are we gonna have?
Ashley, are we officially done?
Oh, sorry. Yes, we are officially done.
Okay, great. I'm gonna shut off the recording then. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome,
You
thank
bet.
you.